Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan, along with our guys, Phil Brylow and Dwight Albrecht. To be joined now to start off the Spare Time Bowling Show this week is our guy, USBC back-to-back Masters champion. He is Anthony Simonsen. Anthony, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
I guess first things first, I want to kind of rewind a little bit, obviously, because you're a rock star at this point, winning as many titles as you've had at this age. When did this all start for you bowling? What was it? Your parents were involved in it, or how did it all start?
Yeah, so both my parents bowled, my brother bowled, my mom and dad bowled a little bit. So it's just kind of a family thing. And then, I was kind of just the one to continue it on. My brother still bowls. Today he's actually been on a little run himself, bowling a 2-300 the last couple of weeks.
Nice.
But, it just started at a young age, and then it was one of those deals where if I was at the bowling alley, you probably knew my parents were somewhere there, and or I was dropped off, and that's where I was hanging out for the day.
You know, Anthony, when you were younger, it's not easy to get your feet wet in bowling without a lot of action matches, that kind of thing. Is that still pretty active? Was that your key in Texas, like getting in young, bowling guys for money that, maybe you had or your parents backed you with, and then to get that mental toughness that you always seem to show in the lanes now?
No, so I actually, honestly, nobody really gambles like the way they used to back in the day. I know Dallas has some crazy stories of guys like Dell and Dino and DJ and knowing all kinds of people bowling action.
Okay.
Nothing really too much of that, but there were some guys who they bowled some pot games. Excuse me. And generally speaking, they would bowl, on 3 or 4 pairs, bowling games across, and I would just bowl on the pair next to them, trying to beat them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I didn't really do too much gambling. I think at that point I was actually still a youth bowler.
Okay.
But I think one thing that's helped is I started bowling with the adults at like 16. So I've had a few years of experience that most 26-year-olds don't really have in the adult competitive world.
So, Anthony, congratulations first on winning the Masters again for a second year in a row. I guess the first question I have for you is, when did you start to decide that two-handed style was going to be the way for you? Did you ever try using your thumb?
So I actually did use my thumb probably up until my mid-teens, I don't know exactly, to be honest, but it's like 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there. Actually, the Lavery brothers, we were bowling a tournament or something, and I bowled a lot with them growing up. I was complaining about my thumb hurting, and ultimately the cause of my thumb hurting was the ball had the wrong pitch drilled in it.
Whoops.
But they were like, you could just not use it. And so then I just took it out and, started fiddling with it. And was like, wow, that's actually kind of a good idea. So I always, give those guys a little bit of credit where it's due, But I threw it one-handed for probably a couple months, I think, as a 3-year-old. There's an old article that the bowling news in the Dallas and the Southwest area that they wrote up, and the picture actually is me throwing a 6-pound ball one-handed.
So here's then the second part of the question is, what do you then feel that is the thing that makes you different than the other two-handers out there? Being a coach myself, I think it's how close you get to the foul line when you release the ball, compared to Belmo, which is much more vertical upright at the release. Is that, in your eyes, the key to your success is your improved accuracy?
I guess I'm accurate, but I also feel like I'm just kind of one of those guys who I'm willing to, if I think something's out there, I'm willing to at least give it a shot. And sometimes that works. And I don't know why why I get as low as I do. I don't know if that attests to playing soccer for 10, 12 years growing up, or just being a really small kid and then really having to use my legs to get the ball down the lane anyways. So it might have just been something, from an early age that I kind of started. I have an old video clip that I'll be sure to show Phil at the bowling alley today. So that's, I don't know. That's just kind of always been the thing. I've always got relatively low, had a pretty good knee bend getting into the line.
World Series of Bowling in town in Milwaukee at Bolero Lane. So I'm going to go see your favorite PBA bowlers like Anthony Simonsen all week long. Talk about the physical part of it, obviously, because we've had this conversation too, as far as the injuries, the wears, and the tears on the body when you're bowling throughout your life, and maybe how that side of it has changed. What is your regimen, I guess, to stay in shape throughout the course of the week?
Nothing really crazy. I'm not one of those guys that's in the gym all the time or ever, but I do spend. For me, I try to during the week while we're bowling just a lot more water than soda. Occasionally, I seem to drink a lot more soda than water at times, but I don't really do anything crazy. I'll occasionally help out Classic Products, the distribution center.
Sure.
So doing some heavy lifting up some bowling balls and moving some skids around. So I'm sure that helps keep a little bit of the weight off. But no, nothing too crazy for me. It's just trying to drink a lot more water while competing.
So the first TV show coming out of the World Series of Bowling, it doesn't matter what you do for the 60 games this week. We're probably going to see you on a show or two next week for sure. But you've got the USA versus the World Bowling coming up. You get Belmo in that singles match on Saturday on Fox Sports. How cool is it to once again represent your country in a competition? And do you wish that the competition, the rest of it, would be down at Holler House as well instead of just at Bolero Wauwatosa? Would you want to bowl Belmo head to head at Holler House?
With the ball reaction that he had there, I don't think I want to bowl. He's able to do that. He's able to bowl 240 everywhere, but he made it a lot easier than I think all 8 of us down there anticipated it being.
What was your thoughts on Holler House in general?
It's a neat place. There was a lot of people there. It was cool to see a bunch of people hanging out for the show. There's so much history involved in that place. So to finally get to see it, I've been out here numerous times. I was just seeing all the signatures on the wall, people who have been there, and kind of like one of those things. Somebody mentioned it, like, man, if these walls could talk,
yeah, right.
Stories that I'm sure they would be able to tell.
So I know you bowl a lot of the pro-ams, and you're seeing more and more young kids coming up that are two-handed bowling, and obviously trying to do what you do, what Belmo does. Is there one piece of advice as a coach that you would want to have the kids try to implement the most in their young two-handed style? Is it the fast feet to generate the ball speed? Just your take on it.
Mark Baker has a really good point. I've been able to work with him with a couple clinics and whatnot, and kind of see a lot of what he's talked about. I think having a push away where you're able to just use a lot less muscle seems to be able to let people throw it to the right a lot easier. I still kind of feel like it's one of those things where the one and two-handed part of this is a little similar, where I as a one-hander, you're not really trying to pull it back. You're just kind of trying to let gravity feed it back where it needs to go. I think that's one thing where a lot of kids are trying to throw it so hard and, get a lot of reps on it that they're just trying, to whip it. So you start to see a lot of people use more of their elbow as opposed to like really getting their hand into a good spot. So I think it's just kind of focusing on that. I think a lot of people, I don't even know if it's parents or just the kids in general, but they get them into the heavier weight way too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good for like developmental purposes of not necessarily the muscles, but just understanding and learning how to physically bowl, of making sure that they're actually using a weight that's comfortable, where they are able to do some different things, and it's not just, the only thing they're able to do is just grab the shit out of it. Pardon my language.
Right.
So this year, off to a tremendous start, top 10 finishes at least in every event to this point. And I've noticed on TV that you're no longer bowling as your home center as the Nerd in Las Vegas. Now it's the Compound. Let the fans know, what exactly is the Compound, and why has that contributed to your success this year?
So that's for anybody out there listening that's into poker. There's a guy by the name of Chris Unikin, known as like the Big Hoonie. he actually has a house out there that has 2 bowling lanes in it. And over my couple years that I've lived out in Vegas, we've become friends. And I actually assisted him getting a lane machine over there whenever he first got situated in the house. But he's been a good buddy of mine. Hang out a decent amount, go to a bunch of events together. But he was kind of like, I have these 2 lanes here, and I don't understand why you don't use them more, because they're right here. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to be bothered in public. I was like, yeah, you're right. I probably should. So I just made use of the last, probably about the last 3 weeks before the tour, trying to get over there just about every day, except for we were going hiking once a week out there. So I normally took that day off. But just getting over there and trying to bowl at least 5-6 games a day, sometimes a little bit more than that. But just getting a lot more reps than I might have previously had leading into a tour season.
See, look at you. You're hiking. That's physical activity. See, that counts. Why did you say that?
Fair,
I'm just worried about playing poker against Simon now.
That's that's like the person that, because we've only gone, probably 5 or 6 times. That's like the person that said they just started going to the gym, on Monday, and they're expecting results on Friday.
That's true. Talking with USBC Masters champion Anthony Simonsen here on the Spare Time Bowling Show. All right, so tell me all about Bolero lanes in Milwaukee and how this center shapes up against some of the other centers you bowl in throughout the year.
This one's kind of unique. It's essentially 3 bowling alleys in one, 324 lane centers. We're not using one of the bays, just for TV show purposes. But, pair to pair can be tricky in here. Getting your ball to go through the pins can be a little difficult, but nothing too crazy. Just another center that we've competed at, and just kind of another day at the office.
Appreciate it, Anthony. Hey man, thanks for coming on. I know you got to get over to the bowling center. I really appreciate it. Good luck this week.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You betcha. Take care. There he is, Anthony Simonsen, joining us, USBC Masters champion, back-to-back Masters champion here on the Spare Time Bowling Show. And Phil was nice enough to kind of hook that up.
Thanks,
and appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about the PBA Tour at the Holler House over the weekend. We brought up with Anthony Simonsen a little bit. I was out of town, so I wasn't able to get over there. So, Phil, you start because you were kind of down there with the cameras and everything else, right?
Yeah. PBA contracted me to come in with the production equipment, cameras, lights, all that other stuff. And, it took a couple of days to get it set up. There's some unique challenges because concrete doesn't move. So,
Right.
Trying to put cameras up, and we had them all on one wall where they had wood paneling, and Kathy down there and Tom were nice enough to let us make a few adjustments to the woodwork down there. And, we got everything set up, took a couple of days. It was a lot of fun to shoot. It was a lot of fun to be a part of. And, you can see me on camera once in a while trying to not hit my head on the bottom of the stairs.
So for people around the country that have never been to the Holler House, explain what the Holler House is.
It's the oldest certified lanes in the nation, continuously certified since 1910. They put the lanes in 1908. The building itself is almost 150 years old. And it's just the upstairs is a party atmosphere, and downstairs it's going back. The upstairs is the bar. The upstairs is the bar.
Right.
And you go downstairs, you go down about 7 stairs, make a turn, go down about 4 more, and then you're on the world's oldest certified alleys. And it's such a unique thing. They still have the pin boys to reset the pins, the lanes. They hook in the front and they don't hook in the back. And, when you see Belmo leave a 5-pin and Tommy Jones leave an 8-10, they're not easy, even though they oil them with a rag mop. And they tried giving the guys a little bit of a tongue of oil down the middle for some hold, but it didn't really give them that much more hold or anything. It's just one of those things where it was neat to have so many fans that have never been there be able to see a match of that caliber go on. I mean, it's already got 90,000 views on YouTube in a day and whatever, a few hours, because people wanted to see. So I said, I wish the whole Fox and Fox Sports 1 thing for USA versus the world. Tom Clark, it's not too late. Get the Fox guys to move down there. I mean, it would be awesome to have that match. I think it'd be really cool. I mean, the Ryder Cup, they get to pick the course when they're hosting, that kind of thing. I think if you do USA versus the world and it keeps going, they should have the bowling center they get to pick to host it. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. All right, so Phil was down there in the middle of it all. Dwight was there with his daughter as a spectator amongst the people in the bar area.
Yes.
Now you had to pay to get into the bar area, right? Is that how that works?
Yes, you had to have a ticket to get in the bar, and I think it was limited to 20 people.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there was 40. There were 40.
Oh yeah, it broke
people,
every
yeah.
fire code possible. Now I know what a sardine feels like in a sardine can.
Okay, well, you had to know going in that it was going to be packed.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how was it?
It was a thrill of a lifetime. That's what I kept telling my daughter. I first want to thank a couple people. Number one, I introduced myself to Kathy, the owner of Holler House.
Right.
Wonderful lady. She was really happy I introduced myself and talked about the radio show. Tom Clark for having the vision to see that this could possibly happen.
For sure.
Pure brilliance. Absolutely pure brilliance. Again, I stood next to a couple of my customers. I have a lot to take away from that day. They were nice enough. Natalie was her name. She was nice enough when Belmo came up from downstairs, because he didn't come in through the front door like all the other pros. People gravitate to him. He's larger than life. So my daughter didn't want me to embarrass her and be a crazed fan. And so I kind of stood back, and I had my Belmo jersey for him to sign. I've had it in the shop 12 years. I thought this would be a great opportunity to get him to sign it with a Sharpie. And when he came up out of the stairs, I looked at my daughter and go, I don't think I'm going to get him to sign it. There was just so many bar patrons that were mobbing him. I know he's only going to have a few minutes before they have to whisk him away to go downstairs. So Natalie looked at me and she said, do you want his autograph? I said, yes, in the worst way, because I didn't know if I was going to get it afterwards. And so she made a path for me. And so I'm right behind her. And sure enough, two guys jumped right in front of me. So she turned around and saw now I'm about 4 or 5 feet behind her, being blocked from these two guys. And she looks at me and she says, get over here. And so I kind of made my way. I'm not one of those guys that are going to push your people out of the way to get a picture or an autograph, but we got our picture taken with him. Then I got out the shirt right away and I said, I know you're super busy. I go, can you please sign this? I've had it in my shop for 12 years. He just was so genuine, so kind. Yep. I had a few words with him, thanking him for changing the landscape of the sport. And he just was so gracious. Again, I said a few weeks ago, there's a different aura to him. Now that I had a chance to look him in the eye, there's definitely a different aura to him compared to everyone else. I just can't get over how people just gravitate to him. I'll never forget that moment.
Okay, so first of all, you should have just sent your daughter. She would have got there and got it done a lot quicker than you would have, obviously.
My daughter is much more shy and meek than me.
Yes, but she clearly was not worried about getting through a crowd. She was going to get that done one way or the other. Okay, so you got your jersey signed, which is obviously a good thing. So up on top, what then were you looking at? Because obviously it was below you downstairs.
Right. Yeah, there was two monitors or two TVs that had a direct feed. Phil came up with this camera and panned the crowd before the start of the tournament. So it was so loud in there you couldn't hear yourself talk. They did the crowd did get quiet before every shot, like it was a studio. And then as soon as the ball was going down the lane, we were all screaming. We all put our hand in the air when Belmo left the 5-pin. One of the funniest moments though is in practice, Belmo takes out the 6-9 on a shot and for a point, left the 2 count, and then the whole bar is going crazy. And he falls to the left falls to the right wall, laughing, looking back at his captain's picks. And he just couldn't believe that he just almost took out the 6-9. Yeah, so that made us all crack up laughing upstairs. So it was just great. I mean, again, any bowler, you have to see the Holler House. Number one, it has to be a bucket list. I kind of did this all just for my daughter to have the ability to see it, because when is she going to get down there to see it? So I haven't been there since 1986. So for me, it's 37 years since I've been down there.
How much has it changed, Dwight?
I told Phil before the show started, I remembered some of the stuff like the bar area. I remember the stairwell to the stairs. The approaches looked different. Phil and I were talking about that Gary Darashevsky came in and did some work on the wood to get ready for this. I never got a chance in my life to throw a ball down the lane. My daughter couldn't get over the lawn ball returns and how the balls come back in the middle. Right. Yeah. Super old school. So I did remember some of it. And then some of it I didn't remember. It looked like they changed some signs around downstairs. Yeah. Right. Maybe get ready for the show.
For TV, right.
Yeah. But it just was, again, once in a lifetime moment.
Okay. I'm old, but I'm not as old as remembering Pin Boys. Yeah. So Phil, please do tell, like, where are the Pin Boys in relation to those pins like scattering all over the place when Belmo's throwing a ball.
Oh, because they only had one pin boy back there. They just would hop to the other side of the other side. Yeah,
gotcha.
They have a ledge that they normally can sit on or stand on, and then jump down, set the pins, get out of the way again.
They had a camera on there.
Yeah, I put a camera down there so you could actually see the pin boy working.
Like
and
I
everything.
said, it was pure brilliance.
I think Bryce, Bryce, I think he got the loudest round of applause out of anybody once Belmo thanked him in the closing credits and stuff like that,
and got his ball. Belmo signed his ball and gave it to the pin boy as a tip.
I would have to imagine the PBA guys had never been a part of anything kind of crazy like this with pin boys and the whole deal. Right? Or no?
No, some of them have been down. They've visited Holler House in the past, but they didn't bowl there or anything like that. And to be part of it and to see the pin boy in action,
That's
they all thought it was really cool. And one of the coolest parts is the score sheet after it was done. We gotta get worked on Tom Clark's handwriting a little bit, but that's a whole nother story. Tom Clark was the scorekeeper, and after it was done, he had Belmo and Tommy, all the players signed the score sheet. Awesome. It's going down to Arlington, Texas, in the International Bowling Hall of Fame and Museum.
How cool is that?
And all the proceeds that are coming off the live stream, everybody watch all the ads all the way through, please. If you watch the replay of the Holler House on live stream, watch the ads, because every penny of that's going to the International Bowling Museum and Hall of Fame down in Texas. Wow. Yeah, all the admission fees are going down there. So yeah, and it's a great place to go to see the history of bowling. And
sure,
as we talked about a couple of weeks back, we need a PBA Hall of Fame on its own, but it's pretty neat to see down in Arlington.
Do we think this happens again?
Oh God, I would have to think so. What we were talking about upstairs in the bar during this match, and I made it a comment a couple of times on, is Tommy Drones throws his spare ball awfully fast, and we were talking about the pin boy getting beamed by one of the pins. Well, one of the shots he did shoot at a spare, maybe the 810, and one of the pins did fly from one side of the lane to the other side where he was sitting.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because there's a little gap in there between where the ball return, where they have to put the ball on and drop the ball down. So yeah, but these kids are smart. They've done it long enough. They, you take one in the shins, you get a little smarter about where you're sitting back there.
Probably.
So you don't take, one in the beam.
Kids?
He's a college kid.
Bryce college kid.
I think he might have been Marcy's grandson.
Right? Kathy's grandson, Marcy's great grandson. So there's 5 generations have run that place.
Oh yeah, you could tell he's done it. He was working his what off.
Yeah,
sure, right. Yeah, absolutely. And you've got the cameras on you. Everybody's gonna be watching this. You don't want to screw up, obviously.
Yeah.
That's part of it too. So we think the PBA will go back.
I would actually hope. So. Yeah, I mean, if the World Series moves to another location outside of Milwaukee, if they start to rotate it, I hope the USA versus the World comes back every year for that captain's match, and they bring it into Holler House. Yeah. I think that's a great way to do it. Absolutely.
What kind of people were there outside of the people that were in the bar? Did you have any overflow outside at all, or no?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yes, I was actually talking to quite a few of them on our way in. There was I wish the TV outside would have been a little larger. I made a comment to Jamie that I said that's all that you guys get to watch. They
had a couple of them out there.
Oh,
yeah,
did they?
They had 2 TVs out.
One.
Yeah, they had 2 TVs outside for everybody to watch, and they were 50 inchers. I mean,
well, how many people were there?
50 or 60 outside.
Really? Yeah, that many people outside the bar really watching.
When my wife dropped my daughter and I off, there was already quite a crowd, and then there was a T-shirt stand and where you could buy the T-shirts. They also had a PBA backdrop where you have your picture taken, like what you're sitting behind.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
They had a bar out. They set up a temporary bar outside, and you get your Pabst, $3 Pabst, and your $5 Polish beers, and you can't get the blackberry brandy though. You had to go inside for the Polish blackberry brandy.
Never had that before.
Oh, it's good stuff. That's how I finished the night after packing up. Had a couple of those with Kathy and Tom, and wife picked me up to help me load everything in the car and get home.
But I was saying to my daughter 2 times, 3 different times, I said, this is our Milwaukee's bowling heaven.
It sounds like it. Yeah. Sounds like it. I mean, obviously you can't fit as many people. You can't have what you can't have at bowling heaven necessarily.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's pretty cool because you have to think about it. Like I'll use something else here locally that has not been what it was. You look at the Milwaukee Mile in West Allis State Fair Park. I think it's the oldest track in the country.
Yeah.
And that has kind of gone by the wayside. I mean, it's still there. Yeah. We still use it for parking for State Fair.
Yep.
You can still rent out the track to have races. And now you're having the truck race coming back this summer, which is going to be awesome. The truck race is the best thing ever at Milwaukee Mile.
Got to get Indy back though.
But for so long though, it was just there was nothing there at all. And there are a lot of people tear it down, start over, whatever. And that Holler House could have been something similar where they could have just let those lanes be abandoned and done nothing with them.
Well, the pandemic hit, and because of Marcy's passing and Kathy and Tom taking over, they couldn't get COVID funding, all the PPP stuff in the IDL, because you had to be in business 2 years as your own business to get any of that stuff. So it was really tough for a while. They were, thinking we might not get our way through, and they made their way through. And now that's why I'm glad that this happened for them down there, because it's bringing so many eyes to this. And I know there's going to be a lot of people coming to town for that PBA League Bowler Certification National Championship. They're going to go check it out in June and July. And Kathy and Tom are ready for them. Come on down and say they'll stay. If they get a crowd, they'll stay open late on a Saturday night. They're not that way.
Sure.
And another thing, I'm sure Phil knows about this, but it was told by us as we were getting a tour of the place from one of the patrons there, that the Eagles, every time that they came into town and played, Joe Walsh and the Eagles would come down to the Holler House, not only drink, but bowl.
That's awesome.
Joe Walsh has the highest score in the history of Holler House, 29,311 in one game. There's a score sheet where Joe marks score, and all of a sudden he's got like 152 in the third. He gets a strike in the fourth, and then all of a sudden he's got 3,000. And he autographed
just remember, life's been good to him so far.
Yeah.
Right, and he autographed it. It's in a prominent place on the wall downstairs.
That's cool.
In the bar, yeah.
See, now this would be a situation, because you'll be back at Bolero again, right, for this thing in June and July.
Yep.
So I don't know if Bolero would allow it, but I mean, they should have like Holler House flyers, like on the tables and stuff for people that don't know about it or whatever the case may be. It'd be great cross promotion.
They've got a whole package the PBA and Bolero's put together for everybody that's bowling. That's going to be there, and you can scan, plus you can scan it on your phone, so it comes up on your phone, so you have everything. Oh yeah, they've got all that. They've got a whole bunch of stuff up at Bolero already.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah.
All right. So what are we expecting this week? World Series of Bowling already underway. Mm-hmm. 1 million games are going to be bowled at Holler at Bolero this week. But from a fan standpoint, what should we expect, Phil? Or don't we know?
Get there early, especially in the night squads, because the number of spectators, it's kind of a tight fit. So if you want to see your favorite player, make sure you get there early to make sure you can follow them. It's a tight squeeze at Bolero Wauwatosa, but you're pretty close to the action. You can see everybody that you want to see by just moving a few pairs. They're using the 48 lane side, and I think as the week gets on, I think the cream's going to rise to the top again. I mean, we're one day in. EJ Tacken on the Cheetahs just outside the top 10. We talked to Anthony Simonsen. He's sitting around 25th, 26th. Same for Belmo. You give these guys enough games, and even though Belmo was 102nd place after 2 games yesterday. Did he fret? Did he do it?
Matter.
No, it doesn't matter, because he knows he has 60 games this week.
Plus, what he just said.
Plus next week, if you make the top 12, you come back next week Thursday for 12 games of match play, and that's how they're going to get the final 5 for TV on Sunday the 23rd.
Think of that, 60 games this week, and yet a lot of people can barely get through a weekend at city or state tournament, bowling 9 games in 2 days.
You're bowling your league season in a week.
Right.
In a week.
Think about that.
I know.
That is insane. I mean, physically. Yeah. I mean, Simonson's like, I don't really do much. But, dude, to throw 60 games, man, physically, you'd be feeling it.
I was really surprised by that answer. I thought for sure that you kind of,
part of it is you bowl so much, so you're using those same muscles over and over again.
Right. I get
so that is the exercise. It's different than, like, say, me over the weekend, Easter weekend, going out and throwing a baseball for the first time in months, and then feeling sore the next day. These guys are doing the same thing every day.
But it was funny because, we talked about Tiger Woods changing the landscape of golf and having his own trainers. And now every one of them, all the golf pros have their own posse that takes care of their physical training and their exercising, and everyone trying to copy what Tiger did because Tiger won everything.
Right.
And then there's still John Daly on the Champions Tour looking like Santa Claus, big old guy, everything like that. He doesn't drop off an injury, really. Yeah. It's just I mean, Stu Williams isn't exactly a prime physical specimen, but back in the World Series in 2017, he bowled 118 games during that World Series because it had match play and all kinds of other stuff. 118 games in 8 days.
I can't even imagine.
And then imagine the practice and stuff like that.
What does your hand look like at that point?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think nowadays
protective tapes.
Yeah, a lot of guys with the protective tapes and a little preventative new skin.
Dude, back in the day, you bowled 9 games, my thumb would be all torn up. I'd have new skin on it and the whole deal.
So I got a quick old story for us. So in 1985, I had ambitions of being a pro. But I later looked at it. If I couldn't win Bowling with the Champs, how was I going to win anything nationally? So I followed. There was a pro in town that had a pro shop, Jimmy Certain, and so I followed Jimmy at Celebrity for his 8-game block. And so they had the lockers in the middle of the building where the pros would put their bowling
I
balls.
remember that.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's all roped off and the fans can't get back there. Well, Jimmy looks at me because I followed him all 8 games and says, come on. And there's a security guard there. And I said, I can't go under that rope. And he looks at me, goes, raises the rope. Come on. And so all it was basically shelving for their bowling balls. That's basically what is it. But Jimmy Certain happened to have his bag right next to Pete Weber's spot. So Pete Weber and I are the same age. So that means Weber would have been in his early 20s also.
Fiery.
Well, he never looked at Jimmy or I. He looked straight down. But the image I remember, I'll never forget, is he would take a piece of new skin and then a liquid, the liquid patch, and coat his thumb, put a piece of new skin on. Then he'd go to a different section of his thumb. His thumb was literally white with new skin and patches before he got started for his block. That's how they did it back then before all these protective tapes came out.
Oh, and as a driller, Dwight, I mean, the technology with how to measure a hand and drill pitches and all that stuff has changed so much in 30 years. Now, especially if these guys are two-handers and no thumb, I don't ever hear of a single two-hander with finger issues. I mean, Kyle Triple K, he cut a nail too close and he got an ingrown nail.
That wasn't from the ball.
That wasn't from the ball. No. So it's just interesting. But even the guys that still have their thumb in the ball, a little protective tape and the right pitches and everything in the thumb. And these guys are good to go. And it's not the grip it and rip it death release we all had back in
Mark
the day.
Roth.
Right. Yeah. It's softer hands. You watch these guys. I mean, you hear guys having more physical issues with other parts of their body than their fingers and wrists, which is the exact opposite of what it was in the 80s and 90s. It was all guys blowing out the wrist. Tommy DeLutz Jr. was a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Great bowler on tour. Had a bunch of years. Wrist went, bam.
Yeah, we didn't have guys like Mo Pinnell in the 70s and 80s. There was Bill Hall, of course, but Mo changed everything when it came to proper fitting.
Yeah, there's been a lot of changes, and that's what's really helped these guys stay in the game for a lot longer nowadays. I mean, Parker making the Masters show,
right,
in his late 50s.
Yeah,
nobody did that in 1979. I mean, Billy Hardwick was old when he tried winning the TOC in like 1979. Yeah, that was old back then when you were pushing 40.
That's wild. All right, looking forward to hearing the stories because you'll have Phil down there. You're going to be down there most of the week, right?
I'm, doing some behind-the-scenes stuff for the PBA video. You'll see a lot of it coming out on YouTube and that in the next couple of weeks. But if you see me on the concourse, say hi, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me know you're listening to Spare Time.
Spare Time Bowling Show, man. Download it today. Tell your friends, tell your family members. Each and every week we do it, and looking forward to doing it again. Again, Audacy, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, YouTube. It's everywhere that you want us to be. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day. Toodles.